think I just need to mute myself on YouTube, so I'm.
Hey, Kate, it's Tom. Can you hear me?
Yes, Tom, can you hear me?
Yep. Okay, good.
Okay. All right, I believe we are feeding live, which means anything that we say now, everyone is hearing. But I won't start the recording of the Zoom until we are actually live. Okay, confirmation that the YouTube is streaming live. We're about 5 minutes out. All right. Good morning, everyone. We're a few minutes out. We're going to give it till a little bit after 10.
Hello, Kate.
Oh, hello, Peter. Let me get off of this and check in. We, as you can see, folks are getting on. I'm gonna mute some of the participant or some of the attendees. You want to try to just make sure you can call up your presentation. I have it set for share screen.
You want me to try?
Yeah, just to be sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Christina had no problem, but
That's actually the first Zoom meeting I have where I have to share slides. You able to see it?
yes. Yep. Excellent. Okay. So as I said to just before you got on, I think what we'll do is I'm just going to open with a welcome and have actually some kind of general announcements to make, some newsy announcements for the membership. Then I'll introduce Bernhard then he can do a quick overview and introduce the two of you. And then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. I've already gotten a couple of questions sent to me in advance, so I know we'll have a good amount of discussion. And I'll give it about 2 more minutes because I know my group normally comes on right about a minute before start time. So we do have the YouTube live going, so some folks could just be watching there.
There's already 35 people in this meeting. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think we'll get close to 70 or 80, frankly, based on the responses. But I did scare people off that we might hit our limit, and so they could be on the YouTube feed as well.
Hallo Bernhard. Greetings to France.
Greetings to Austria. Hi, Peter.
Are you all, we're watching the Euro football matches here. I'm sure you're all very invested in that, huh?
Actually, I'm not. I'm a big football fan, but not necessarily interested in the Euros at the moment. I'm organizing an internal betting game with 10 euros at stake, so that's my biggest concern. Might be
Austria is
lost.
doing well. Austria is quite good, aren't they?
We won the first match, but today we face the Netherlands, and I'm not too optimistic about this.
Yeah, it's like our sports betting over here. It's more interesting than who's actually playing. It's how you do in these various pools.
Mm. Are you a big football fan, Kate? Football in terms of soccer, I mean.
No, not huge. I'm a big sports fan, but I actually like these kinds of international events. I get more interested in them than following, Premier League or something.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Since I'm in France, I've switched to rugby. It's much more hands-on, It's
Watching or playing, Bernard?
I'm not playing, as you can imagine, but my son is playing, and I like to watch. But I'm also watching a little bit the European Championship because my son, of course, is watching all the games, and so I'm forced to follow, at least in that respect.
Compared to rugby and American football, the normal football is coming across as a little bit soft, I guess.
All right, I think we're at 10:02. We have about 60 people on this, on the Zoom, and I think we should get started. So I will hit the record button. And so good morning to all of our attendees. Good afternoon to our speakers. I want to welcome everyone to the webinar. I'm going to briefly share my screen here just to bring up our program for today. I want to note that we're trying something for the first time. We're doing a feed to YouTube Live, and Bernard Bukoff, I'm going to introduce shortly. He didn't realize he signed up for technical support as well. He helped me get that loaded, and then my son helped me test it, and I was really proud of myself. And my son reminded me that I managed to learn a platform that's been around since 2005. So, that's kind of that's the reality check. But I just wanted to note that we will not have a member call today at noon. This is in lieu of our member call that we normally have. A couple of quick announcements that you might have seen. Barry Burns shared with us that Nepal is coming off the suspension list on Friday, tomorrow. And then I'm going to just call up Vlad Spanu, who's from Export Compliance Team, has shared with me a document that I'm going to call up real quick. I'm going to mute everybody right now, and then just remind our speakers to take themselves off of mute. So my next share will be this document from Vlad. just to note that the export compliance enforcement date is set for July 6th. And I will share the slide, but we're going to put this topic on next week's member call so that we can talk a little bit more about it, about the export compliance requirements, and Vlad can walk us through a little bit of the results from the testing that the Post Service did. And then we can talk a little bit about the confirmation error warning reports. He will have the technical team on for that as well. So I will share the slide again at the end. I'll share the slides of the presentations from the speakers, and we are recording this, so I will share the live link as well. Vlad, did you want to add anything to this before we moved on?
No, I think we're all good for today. The kind of my main purpose is to fulfill my commitment to you that we will provide ahead of time the enforcement date, which is July 6th, after the July 4th Independence Day day off on July 5th, which is Monday. And so July 6th will turn on export compliance. And then, as you said, next week we will go into the importance of looking at the error reports and then how to get access. And we'll bring our technical experts to provide some data and information on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe that was all of my main announcements, and I don't want to take any more time from this webinar, which is a topic that many of us have been following very closely, and many of us have had a chance to sit through other webinars. And in fact, that's kind of what got us here today. Bernard Bukow, who is the chairman of the Postal Innovation Platform. Many of you probably know of the Postal Innovation Platform. He hosts a number of webinars. He does startup and innovation competitions. Bernhard has spoken at Postal Vision 2020, which one of our members, John Callan, hosted for many years, organized for many years. He's a Parcel and Post Expo speaker, and last year he hosted the high-level forum at the he moderated the high-level forum at the UPU on opening to the wider postal sector. And so I watched one of his webinars. He asked me to make some comments from sort of an American perspective, and lo and behold, Bernard was recruited to help me set up a webinar on this topic. And one of the things that I thought was most valuable is that we heard directly from the European Post, who are getting ready for the July 1 date for the EU VAT changes and the customs changes, and are seeing it from really from the inside, and as I said, kind of boots on the ground. So I think their perspective and sharing with us how to get ready and what to expect is going to be enormously helpful. And so I will turn it over to Bernard to introduce the speakers. And then I think what might be best is if you have a question, to put it in the chat box, just because there's so many of us on this webinar. So over to you, Bernard.
Thank you very much, Kate. And thank you very much also to the IMAG membership for having me, for having the Postal Innovation Platform here to partner with you. As Kate already mentioned, we did a webinar exactly on this topic, the EU VAT changes, but also some of the other changes. I mean, 2021 is really one of those years where a lot of things are changing when it comes to cross-border, and so it creates a lot of questions, sometimes confusion, and I think you cannot really have enough of these kind of events now, and we have to support each other in order to get things right, because the European posts in particular, they depend on the other posts around the world in order to enable that the processes are smooth. I would like to quickly maybe set the scene, and I've prepared here just one slide, which I will now like to share. You all know it's really just for setting the scene. I won't talk very long here because we want to hear really from our experts from the posts. On July 1st of July this year, many things are going to change. All goods imported into the EU will be subject to VAT, as you all know. So there will be the import one-stop shop, and this actually shall really allow a more fluent and easier, a simpler approach for everybody. So it should make things easier, very simple. To all your members, that's the website of the EU, and for once I think it's really good, because sometimes you look at those public websites and you think, okay, it's complicated, it's not really clear. But I think for the EU, it was well done, to be quite frank. To set the scene and to talk a little bit about the scope, it's for goods from outside of the EU in consignments with value below 150 euros and not subject to excise duty. So all those products, alcohol, tobacco, and whatsoever, where excise duties can apply, they do not fall under the IOSS. Who is concerned? Online sellers, electronic interfaces, either directly, the electronic interface would be some kind of a website, a portal, a marketplace in principle, and they are considered to be liable. So they need to register with or in the IOSS. Either you established in the EU, then it's you can do it yourself, or you can go via an intermediary, and there are plenty of intermediaries, financial representatives who would do that willingly for you. But that's the easy part. I mean, that's the theoretical part. And as we discussed before, there are many other questions, the practical questions. And I think it's really those questions which we should focus on here. So there are a couple of data requirements, information requirements that are very clear and that they're very specifically mentioned in all these kind of documents. Are those enough for practical purposes, for handling purposes? Will there be others that will be needed? Not mandatory from the regulatory perspective, from the legal perspective, but maybe from the perspective from the posts for being able to handle that. Are all countries IOSS ready? That's another one of those questions that are relevant. In principle, IOSS is quite easy because you can do it in any country you like. But some might have kind of an established subsidiary in one of the countries and want to do it there. But in this particular country, are you ready? Are you not ready? And then the customs authorities, are they ready? Are there possible bottlenecks? I'm working in this business with cross-border declarations and working with different customs authorities as well. And I know that one customs authority to another customs authority, even though there might be a European legal framework to it, might handle things slightly different than another customs authority. And then there are many other important questions that that might be relevant. So that was just really this very short introduction. But I think, as I said already, the most important thing is to hear from those that are really handling it. It's the posts. And we had 2 weeks, or no, 3 weeks ago as well, posts there. Peter Koller was there as well, who is here with us today to share the views of Austrian Post. So Peter Koller, he's head of international affairs at Austrian Post, and he can give us really insights into the practical side of what is necessary, what is not necessary, in order to handle all these kind of issues that come well, that the Post is confronted with. And we also have, and I'm very grateful for that as well, we have Cristina Cuerda Albaladejo from Correos Spain with us. She's customs manager there, so she really knows firsthand what are the problems, what are the issues, and again, what are the requirements that are needed if you want to ship goods to the EU, if you want to make those advanced information to the postal company and to the customs authorities. So what is needed in these respects as well. Kate, I think we can hand over to the speakers unless you have something else to say at this point.
No, I agree. Let's turn it over, and I have Peter lined up. I think he was first on the list to go, so we'll have Peter go and then Christina. Thank you.
Perfect.
You're still mute. Peter, you're still on mute.
It always happens to me. You can hear me now clearly, right?
Yes,
But
I can. We can.
the honest reason is because I have troubles always with muting, unmuting. We don't use Zoom here too much in Austria. We're kind of fixed into the MS Teams kind of world. So Zoom is always an adventure for me. Thank you very much also for the opportunity to be speaking here today. As Bernhard pointed out, and I'm of the same opinion, there can't be enough of such events. where we link postal operators to senders. It's really important to foster the linkage between these two groups, because I guess the interaction is, even with these new customs rules, is becoming more and more tight in the years to come. Let me start by a brief introduction. As Bernhard said, my name is Peter Koller. I'm Vice President International Affairs. I have a team of around 20 people. I really like my job because it's always challenging, and I'm in charge of 4 very different topics, which are international remuneration, so dealing with all kind of mathematics and statistics. I'm also in charge for international product management, international relations, and also for international customer solutions. We still have quite a chunk of large customers who send commercial mailings all across Europe and into the world. And this is a very important part of our business. For this meeting, this has nothing to do, because with commercial mailings, we all know that these new rules, they only affect items containing goods. Let me also start by quickly introducing Austria to the Americans. I could not resist showing this slide. Please be assured that I don't know any Austrian who has ever seen The Sound of Music. I've heard that many Americans have seen this movie. I have not, my parents have not, my friends have not. I don't know anyone. And also we are very famous for Arnold Schwarzenegger, who made it big in the US. Except for that, you might know Mozart. But besides beautiful nature, Austria is not too famous, I would say. But it's a pretty cool country to live in. From a postal perspective, we are also not a very large operator. We're mostly operating domestically. We have a group revenue of around 2 billion euros, which is derived from 3 different divisions, we call it. A very large mail division, then we have parcels and logistics business, and a retail and bank business. We actually founded our very own bank last year, and hopefully continue to thrive in the banking industry, which is quite new to us. From an international perspective, things that people don't know, we have quite a large footprint from Germany down to Turkey. Last year, we also acquired a large chunk of the second largest parcel distributor in Turkey, which is called Aras Cargo, and really have a focus also on growing internationally. But we call this growth in near markets. But when you think of near in terms of distance, countries bordering Turkey, they might not be near in terms of European perspectives. When we say near, we mean like 1 hour by plane or 3 hours by car. So it's getting long and longer in terms of distance. Bernhard has set a pretty high bar for me, because he said I'm going to provide insights into the practical side of the business. I will try my best. I have lots of pictures with you, but luckily I don't have the biggest insight into the new customs rules within the company, because, and I say it again, luckily, unfortunately, I'm not responsible for the project, which has been going on for almost 18 months within the company. The project is dealt with by colleague Martina, and I have my highest respects for her, because we have never seen a larger project from an international perspective as with these new customs rules. Bernhard said it before, the 1st of July is an important date, because the VAT threshold is going to be abolished European-wide. Are we ready for this? Honestly, I cannot say yes. I cannot say no. 4 weeks ago, I think when we had the webinar with Postal Innovation, which is Bernhard is hosting, this slide only said that I'm not sure if we are ready. In the past 4 weeks, I've learned a few things which make me a little bit more optimistic. I'm going to touch it later, but what I've learned, I think that in terms of quality and quality, data quality, we've made a big jump to the front. So that the quality and the data quantity we receive from other operators is very good at the moment. Overall, I would say that the prerequisite in order to operate efficiently, and from a stock listed point of view, that's the most important thing to operate efficiently. Everything has been put in place a couple of years ago already. And since 1st of January of this year, it is mandatory under UPU rules to send ITIMAT data. ITIMAT, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this term, and that's kind of the customs data or the data concerning the item which is being sent, and we use this data for our customs processes. And it's only logical that only good ITIMAT data is valid in order to operate efficiently. Without ITIMAT, every item would have to be typed in manually. So if we had no data, we would have to have a colleague in our office of exchange sitting and type in everything into the IT system, because only IT is very efficient. We have a couple of challenges, unfortunately. Many countries, they don't send us ITIMAT data because they are not willing to sign respective data sharing agreements. You would not believe that there's a high number of countries which have not signed data sharing agreement 1 or data sharing agreement 2. Don't worry about these terms, but these are data sharing agreements governed by UPU and IPC. They won't provide us data. It has been a rule for almost 6 months. They still don't send any ITIMAT data, although it is mandatory. There's seriously a very large country, one of the biggest countries in the world, which is not going to send us ITIMAT. And this is going to be a huge problem coming 1st of July. The good news is it's not the US. The ITIMAT exchange with USPS is working well, also with all the other European operators who are engaging in E2E business in the US or all around the world. So everything is looking fine from this perspective with mail coming out of the US. I've also had a quick glimpse at data quality and quantity, which we receive from USPS, and we see figures which are very, very good. But still, overall, the ITIMAT quality is not where it is expected to be in order to operate in the most efficient way. What do we still see? And we also see this with items coming from the US. Often we have empty and incorrect fields. This goes from missing content in ITIMAT. It would also start with missing CN22 or the CN23 documentation. And sometimes we also have undervaluation and counterfeit products. But most of the time, this is an Asian problem, another problem, which we see with items coming from the US. And then we have another problem area, which is that the ITIMAT we are getting sent, it doesn't fit what's written on the CN22. We sometimes even receive ITIMAT for already customs cleared items. We receive ITIMAT with European Union sender's address and European Union country of origin. This doesn't make any sense. What we have introduced is an automatic customs process. So all the ITIMAT we get, we would assume that this comes from a country of origin outside the European Union. But if the ITIMAT says it comes from within the European Union and the sender address says it well, we get confused. Not only does our IT system get confused, but also the colleagues working in the Office of Exchange. And another problem would be that we get items with a European Union sender's address and a country of origin outside the European Union. So one of our concerns is, no, it's not a concern, that's the wrong wording. I would say, if I can ask something, is that to please make sure that the ITIMAT fits with what's in the item and what's written on the CN22. And overall, this equation leads to additional resources we need. We we will have to hire dozens of people from 1st of July. Actually, we've hired most of them already who take care of these new customs processes. But if we have these additional challenges, we have to add even more people. And the biggest concern in this respect is the more inaccurate the data is, or the CN22, the less customer friendly the experience would be. Because if there's data missing, even for items which have been customs cleared before, we sometimes get no data, then we might charge our customs fee, which will be €5. If the data was fine, let's say for IOSS items, we wouldn't charge the customs fee. So it's really, really important to provide the accurate data. I barely touched it already. I'm not sure if now is the right time to go into these questions. We have high hopes into IOSS, and we got a clear signal from one of the largest European senders being active in Asia that most of their traffic is going to switch into IOSS, and this is just perfect news to us. We're anxiously waiting for 1st of July, and the worst case would have been if everything was sent onto DDU type of documentation, and IOSS is pre-cleared. It's the best outcome it can be. Kate, I would need a little guidance from you now, since you sent these questions beforehand. I will wait for Christina's presentation to finish, and then we could touch on them later on, if that's...
I think that's a good idea, because I think Christina will hit on some of those topics too, and then we'll take those at the end. Yes, thank you, Peter, very much.
However, I'm coming now to the end of my presentation, and we still have 2 weeks to go. As I said in the very beginning, I've become fairly optimistic, not only with the good news from this large European sender, who said that the big Chinese marketplaces, that they will go into IOSS, but also analyzing data we receive from the US, from China, from other countries, and the data does look good, actually. I can only urge you to work with IOSS and do everything to provide us with perfect data in order to present the customer with a seamless experience. There's one important question at the end. Is there still any chance that the July deadline gets pushed out to a later date? The answer is clearly no. It's time now for me to hand over to Christina. I thank you all for listening, and I'm curious to receiving and answering your questions after Christina's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And Christina, hopefully you can tee up your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Kate. Thank you, Peter, for the presentation. Thank you, Berna, for the introduction. My name is Cristina Cuerda from Spain, Correos Spain, designated operator. I will start the presentation. Oh, sorry, let me one. Okay, here, sir, and voila. Okay, can you see the screen, please?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. My presentation will address a very practical issues. The objective of this presentation is to give you some tools, some guidelines in order to help you to meet the new VAT regulation. Okay, I'm very happy to be here today because this is a very good opportunity to speak directly with you about what we need. What we need is based on electronic advanced data. This is the magic word, electronic advanced data, for all our issues. To use the 5 questions I wanted to in journalists to analyze the problem, the issues. Okay, I decided to use for today too. For example, go ahead. The first question is what is electronic advanced data? I'm sure that you are very familiar with this terminology, with this postal process, these postal flows. As you can see in the slide, the global postal model has been developing or is working to complement, to implement from 1st January 2021 to almost we have ahead 3 or more years ahead to complete. In this global postal model, there is a very important flow that is the flow zero. Flow zero is where you are. Flow zero is where consolidator, service provider, platform, marketplace has to provide the electronic information, the electronic advanced data to the origin post, in this case USPS, as soon as possible in order to know to EU post receive it and could meet as soon as possible the new regulation. Electronic advanced data is a concept, a concept that includes that all items containing goods have to provide stamp barcodes, customs declaration paper forms, and also, of course, the IMAG and also previous message. As Peter said previously, data sharing agreement is a prerequisite, but the data sharing agreement is something between origin post and European post. There is several or some agreements. All of them are compatible. It's enough to sign one of them. In Europe, we recommend to version 2 of the data sharing agreement by IPC because it's compliant with GDPR. But in any case, no problem. All data sharing agreements are okay for us. Also, you need to fill in accuracy way the customs declaration forms. Also, data capture at origin, at source. Of course, use the ITMAT. There is a mandatory standard for ITMAT, but is developing another one, the version 2, that will include more business element to help in the cross-border e-commerce relationship, okay? But for now, the mandatory is the M33. The previous message is very important to make sure they perform the nesting. The nesting is the association between all items with X10 barcode and all receptacles with S10 barcode. At the end, the objective is to collect the information from the paper form and transform to the ITMAT. ITMAT is an XML field, no more. Second question, why do I have to provide the electronic advanced data? Here you can see the main milestone that we have overtaken and we have ahead, and the new safety, security, and customs and VAT rules have impact on our business, on cross-border e-commerce, and all of these regulations around the world requiring electronic advanced data. From the 1st January, you know that IT math is mandatory at UBU level. Then in Europe, in March, we start the first phase, the release one of ICH2 security, ENS, declaration, security declaration. In April, start the process of registration process on iOS. As far as I know, but it's not official information. There is around 52 platforms, online shopping register. The main of them, as far as I know, are included in the iOS. I hope. And the next milestone is the, of course, we are here today, is the low value consumer and new VAT regulation. The pandemic has affected to the roadmap of the implementation of this regulation. And from my point of view, there is or has been there a bit flexibility from the European regulator, but 1st July will be the very important date for us, and at the end of September, probably this kind of flexibility will still remains, but from 1st October, all goods has to be provided by ENS and also VAT declaration, security and fiscal or customs declaration. The next question is, what is changing from, from 1st 2021 on? Berhan introduced the topic, and also Peter. From July 1st, the VAT exemption of 22 euros will be removed, and all goods imported to EU will be subject to VAT. For imported goods with a value not exceeding 150, two simplified VAT collection mechanism process options are or will be available. iOS, that means the payment in advance of the VAT at the time of purchase, and special arrangement. Here is where EU Post has the role, the important role. In this case, VAT needs to be collected by EU Post before goods can be delivered to the customer. The buyer has to pay the VAT and a customs clearance fee at the moment the goods are imported into the EU, in the import customs clearing in our country, okay? This is very important. Member states may allow the use of the standard VAT in the destination country. That means that Correos will charge the 21% of VAT, because 21 is the standard rate in Spain. I will provide later on a link where you can check what is the standard rate in EU countries. For this special arrangement, EU Post needs to know if VAT has been collected by iOS or not, or we will have to do it. For this reason, it's very important that platform online shop inform the number of the iOS registration number in the item map. I will show you then later on the specific field how to deal this issue. And nothing changed for collection of customs and VAT on imported goods value more than 150 euros. In this case, as currently you have to pay, or the addressee in Europe have to pay VAT and also duties. In addition to collect the VAT for these items from 0 to 115, is already exist the standard procedures for any kind of importation. And probably you have heard that there is a DDP solutions that could be used to collect VAT, but in this case, you have taken into account that a DDP solution, in my opinion, is not very familiar for post in Europe, not yet. And I think it's better for you to use the iOS system. On the other hand, DDP solutions covers more fees or more content. For example, not only VAT. In a DDP solution, you can include also duties, you can include the postal fee, and you can include all charges that has or have been agreed in this relationship, okay? Next question, who is responsible to provide electronic advanced data? This is interesting because it depends on where you put the loop, you put the focus. In my opinion, from the UPU global point of view, remember that from 1st January, the origin port has the mandatory provision of electronic advanced data for all items containing goods to the destination country, in this case, to Europe, okay? However, from the European legislation point of view, according to the UCC, Union Custom Code, the EU Post is responsible to submitting both declarations, security declaration, EMS, to ICS2 declaration first, and second, customs and VAT declaration. In any case, EU postal operator are fully depend on no EU postal operator and mailers readings, okay? If I have a problem to submit the custom VAT declaration to our Spanish or custom authorities, I will rely the responsibility, the liability on you, because you have the obligation to provide as soon as possible the ITMAT message to the origin post. If goods are not covered by ITMAT measures, they could be considered non-compliance items according to UPU regulations. In any case, EU Post could decide whether, if we deliver the item to the addressee, okay, I have enough data, I have to make the ENS or the VAT declaration manually, I have quality on the data, okay, I will deliver. Depends on the volume that I have to do this. But if also we have the possibility to return the items to the sender. And of course, I don't have enough data on the item on the CN 23 paper forms. I don't have ITMAT in advance. It's not possible to return, and it's possible to destroy. Of course, this is the last resort. Nobody wants to destroy, nobody wants to return, okay? But these three possibilities are being studied in this moment in the Europe countries postal operator. 5 questions. When should I provide the IMAG data? As early as possible. As early as possible, you provide the accuracy data, the right data, to the origin post, to the USPS. USPS will send me the data and we will prepare in advance all import process, all kind of declarations that I have to provide to the customs authorities in advance, in pre-arrival phase, for example, before items arrive to our Office of Exchange, Madrid Barajas. If I have the right data, I have the not only mandatory, but also telephone, email, I can prepare the process and my customer and your customer will be very happy. Where will the import VAT be collected? In these both options, import one-stop shop on the one side and special arrangement in the second, on the other hand. In the first one, using the iOS, the EU import VAT will be collected in advance to the customer upon sale. There is an example. Cristina in Spain ordered shoes worth 100 euros, not including VAT, from US website. The US company is registered for iOS in EU country. You have done homework, very good. And for example, in Italy, it's not necessary that you are registered in the same country that you will send the goods.
Hey, Christina, we're having a little trouble hearing you at the moment. It's faded a bit.
Okay. Could you hear me?
Still hard to hear.
Okay. Okay. In this case, you can. Cristina has to pay the shoes, and the US company will charge the 21% of Spanish VAT. This is the standard rate. Okay, and in the second special arrangement, for example, Enrique in Spain ordered electronics from an online seller based in China. The electronics are worth 5 euros, not including VAT. The Chinese business did not register for iOS. Okay, in this case, Enrique will pay the import VAT and also the handling fee for couriers. How can improve the data quality to meet the VAT rules? I will provide you these guidelines to meet the EU security and VAT rules in a snapshot. The more important part of this guideline is this one. Here you can see all the data that you need to meet VAT and security. All data are included in the CN23 on ITMAT message. Put special attention for this info. If you have a number of years, please put here sender custom reference or in the same field on the ITMAT. Telephone and email addressee or importer are not mandatory at UPU level, but is critical for us in Europe in order to prepare in advance the customs clearance for you. Very important, the descriptions of the goods. Here you can see an link to the acceptables and not acceptables description by the EU regulation. The HS tariff code, 6 digits at least, is very important for us because it's not mandatory at UPU level, but it's mandatory for EU posts to provide in the H7 declaration for VAT. Also, it's very important to put the real value of the good and the currency in the destination country if possible. If you use any kind of DTP solution, please put here separately of the sender's custom reference. Put here in the comments, in the observation field. Okay, this is only to post in Europe, separate what is the iOS number and what is another one. And finally, as I said previously, the electronic advanced data is the magic word, is the solution for all kind of regulation in Europe and in general around the world. I think that the theory is more easier than the practice, but we have the tools, and I hope that this info could help you to improve the data. I have included at the DM some links that could be very useful also for you. And thank you. That's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christina. And I just want to restate that we will share all the slides, and I will be able to, share everything you have said, all of the slides as well, so people can take a little bit of a deeper dive, look at all of that. I do have a few questions that have come up in the chat box. I want to, 1 second here. Well, first of all, I had one that came to me yesterday that I didn't submit in advance, so I wanted to just ask it, because I think there's been some conflicting information on whether publications will be required to pay VAT. So is a publication considered a good, or in some countries, is it not considered a good? And maybe Peter first, can you just, do you know, from Austria's perspective, and then Christina, is a publication considered a good that needs to have VAT collected?
That's always my biggest fear, to define between good and document. I honestly, I have to look it up. I guess it's the good if the customer paid for it. Christina, can you go first, please?
Okay, I have I lost for a few seconds. Could you repeat the question, please?
The question was just if a publication is considered a good that has to pay VAT, like a magazine, a publication.
There is a lot of public information. I have provided some of the link. I think in that link you can find the info. The info
Okay.
needs.
Okay, a few questions. Let's see. I'm gonna try to combine a few, because I think some questions about the is the CN23 mandatory, or CN22 will work as well. And we've heard concern that placing the IOSS number on the CN22 may expose possibility for fraud. We've been told not to put the IOSS number on the actual physical form. So I don't know which of you, or even Bernard, if you know what you're recommending.
My clear recommendation is to put it on the label. Otherwise, we will not be able to distinguish between IOSS and non-IOSS. I'm confused a little bit because that was advised by USPS.
Well, IPC advised us not to put it on the label, International Post Corp. So I think there's confusion about that, because it opens the door to fraud, what they said.
The most important thing is, not too sure, but the most important thing is that it is at least transmitted in the data.
Right, correct.
If I may, my recommendation is always put in the IMAG of post but I understand that it's possible you have concerns to put on the label because there is the possibility to someone copy the structure of your number register and put in other flows, for example, okay? But in any case, please, it's very, very important to put in the item. Or also there is the possibility to encrypt the data. But in this case, you have to take into account, you have to agree this with the destination post because in Europe, more of us use IPC, but others has or use the PTC, the Postnet network. And as far as I know from UPU, PTC, it's possible to help to encrypt and read them the data. I don't know, Correos use IPC, but to be honest, I don't know how this issue will be dealing at the IPC. But if you put in the ITMAT, we can program our system to read and to identify the structure of the IS number. It's very important.
Right. Okay. Well, just to these are questions I fed in advance, and I see a couple have come up in the chat box too. Christina mentioned, and I know Peter, and when you presented previously, you mentioned that even if the recipient email or recipient phone number is not a requirement in the advanced data, a recommendation, the importance of including that so the destination post can actually reach out to the recipient and contact them, especially if a DDU service has been used or a DDU solution has been used. The same question comes up about the HS code, the harmonization code. It's not required, correct? Or will it be required on July 1? Our understanding is that it's not required on July 1, but recommended.
With HS codes, let me start with IUSS. If there's no HS codes for an IUSS item, we will have troubles. So we might even send out a UPU circular in the upcoming days, mentioning that it's an ultimate prerequisite for IUSS items into Austria for us not to charge any customs fee to provide the HS number. With non-IUSS, I can only urge to provide as much data as possible. You always have to think about the recipient as well. Posts, they might charge a huge amount of money for their customs fees because they have huge amount of things they have to manually handle. So if the data is getting better and better and there's a smooth and seamless process, even in the future, I could think of lower customs fees. So I think this is kind of a trade-off. Provide as much data and have the best customer experience as possible. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question now, but data is everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think the importance of including it, you have so noted, and even if it's not yet mandatory for getting through, export compliance on our end, it's important for delivery and the customer experience.
Yeah, and the same is true for email and phone number. If there is no email and phone number, we have to send a letter to the recipient. Then he has to walk to his mailbox and open the letter. You don't know how many times per week a recipient opens his mailbox. So everything gets delayed by a couple of days, and it's not very efficient if we have to print out paper and use our letter mail network in order to get in touch with the recipient, who then again has to get in touch with us either by letter or by phone or email.
The one second. One of the questions I get a lot, and I see it's in the chat box too, is is there somewhere, what is the customs fee that each post collects? Is that published somewhere? For the processing or handling fee for having to collect the VAT? And then also, I suppose if there's separate and other fees of any kind, where is there somewhere to find all of those fees for every EU country, or do you have to look it up for each one?
Christina, do you want to answer?
I think that there is not common agreement in EU Post on how they will charge for handling fee in the special arrangement. In my opinion, this amount could be aligned with UPU handling fee in the Article 20 of the Convention Regulation of UPU. It's possible to charge a fee based on the real cost of the operation. Okay, the real cost for us from 1st July will be very, very cost, and I think that the amount could be between €2 and €4, more or less. I don't know exactly. In Correos, I have not decided yet what will charge, but in around €2-3 more or less. But it's not yet, as far as I know.
I'm also afraid there's no database where you can find all the import tariffs for all countries. For Austria, we've had €10 in the past. With this new introduction of the non-existing threshold, I've reduced it to €5 because we don't want to see like a 90% decrease in mail volumes, and I think that's still our core business. That's why I reduced it to €5. We had to go through the regulatory process with this fee, but it has been signed off recently. But the more expensive something gets, I think for items over €150, we will charge €10 extra. And we also introduced a fee which didn't exist until yet, that when the data is incomplete and we have to reach out to the recipient, we will charge an extra of €25.
Wow. So having a DDP or DDP solution or IOSS, using IOSS is critical. And then the second piece, to your point, is having correct and complete data is also critical. Otherwise, it's going to cost the shipper.
Yeah.
The recipient, I guess, but ultimately it costs the seller because of the experience being so poor. We're up against our time. I know there's some other issues in the chat. There's still some question about clarity on publications. Are they a good or not? I guess the bottom line there is it's not necessarily an EU decision. Each country determines whether a publication is a document or a good. Is that how I understood your answers to be?
I just got in touch with one of my product managers because this question always confuses me. I can let you know our position on that afterwards, Kate, and you can share it with your members.
Okay, appreciate that. And then I just had one other question that had come up. This will be the last one because I know I'm keeping everyone beyond 11 o'clock our time here. We have heard that Germany has said that it will have sort of low value customs threshold. So in other words, if you're not using IOSS and it's less than €5.25, German customs will not charge VAT. That's surprising because it seems to go against the requirement, and it seems to not fit into the overall effort here. Is that something that the other European posts will do? Continue to keep sort of a nominal low value threshold?
We can certainly not do this, and we're also confused by the German situation. Very, very confused, to be honest with you.
Okay, so that still remains another point of confusion.
Yes, but that's what the situation is in Germany. But obviously, the law is not treated in the same way in every country.
Okay. There are some other questions in the chat box. I'm gonna save all of this and try to get answers, you know, offline, and anything more that we get, perhaps I will funnel on to you all, but some of these might be broader questions for not just for your posts, but for all of the EU. And it's not, I think what we're discovering is it's not particularly easy to get answers. And there's still a lot of confusion, and we have really 2 weeks to go. So I just want to thank all of you, thank Bernard for setting this up. The good news is the slides have a lot of information and a lot of resources that we can look up for further information, but I know we will be spending the next 2 weeks trying to get even more information. So yes, and I will share the copies of the presentation and the link to the recording. That much I can do for sure. So thank you to our speakers. I want to thank everybody for being a part of this, and I look forward to us continuing to learn together. But I will be back in touch, I'm sure, with our speakers and looking for more information. So thank you to everyone, and look for my email a little bit later today with the links to all of this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Peter, Christina, Bernard.
Thank you, Bernard, too, for setting it all up.
Thank you, Kate. Have a great day. Bye.